It's time for Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here is your host, the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Did you find yourself maybe sweating, shaking, just maybe have a headache, going through some sort of, detox from not having Grizz basketball, NBA basketball? Don't worry, because the NBA games are still pretty darn intriguing. Last night, you could tell there was playoff-level intensity. We saw James Harden turn back the clock. What did James Harden average this year in Philly? Like 17 a game, right? Isn't that what it was, J-Mo?
Let me look.
I think that's what it was, 17, something like that. It wasn't a lot. He had a lot of assists. He sort of changed his game. He's getting a little older.
21 and 11 this year.
21, okay. Well, it was in the playoff series before that he averaged 17. That's what it was. But he has been a guy who has recognized what his role is with this team to be successful, and it is to make Joel Embiid better. Is that a fair assessment in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, he certainly
to
is.
compliment him, but the focal point is Embiid, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Embiid's one of the three candidates to be the player of the year, the MVP of the league.
Yeah, which will be announced today. Yeah, it's certainly to compliment him, absolutely.
But with no Embiid, what do? You revert to what you used to do, which is score. And that is, he did not want to do, by the way, the post-game interview. You could tell, and they sort of made him go back and talk to the sideline reporter. And, he was short, but to the point, and he goes, hey, without him, I'm taking shots. Somebody's got to score. And so 45 points later, at a well over 50%, including a dagger 3, they didn't need Embiid. They steal game 1 at the Boston TD Garden and are up 1-0 in the series. There were two great plays. First, and I love Al Horford, and at 36, he has really maximized his career. He's still making big plays, right? Like, I think they talked him into coming back, right? He was going to retire, something like that. Am I making that up? He was going to retire. That kind of said, come on back. You'll be a great leader in the locker room. And here he is getting significant minutes 82 games later in playoff series where he's making great defensive plays, rebounding, making clutch buckets. I think he's terrific. I really – here's a guy who – did he play all 4 years in college?
He did.
Because I know he won two titles.
He did, played all 4 years.
With Florida. Him and Noah. I love those two guys. So he's at least 36, right?
Yeah, he is. I thought I had it right
he's
here.
He's not as old
he's
as Chris Paul.
30, about to turn 37 in June.
Okay, so he's for all practical purposes, he's 37. It's just like for all practical purposes now, Chris Paul is going to turn 38 next week, so he's 38.
I'm sorry, Al Horford only played 3 years at Florida. His sophomore year they won it, and his third year they won it.
Okay, so he stayed a third year. He could have left after the championship year. But he's been unreal. But he's not quick enough. No one is. Not a big man in a switch to take on Harden. And Harden makes a 3-dagger. And then here comes Boston down. And Boston is moving the ball incredibly well. Did you see this play with Tyrese Maxey being the recipient of a man in the middle, and they threw it to the wrong guy? It's like, I don't know who threw the ball, who the turnover was on, but they've made, I'm not making this up, 7 or 8 passes in like 5 seconds. It's beautiful basketball. It's getting whipped around. Somebody for sure is going to have a free shot, and then it's like the guy didn't see the right uniform. And he throws the ball to Maxey, and I thought Maxey was going to go down and wait for somebody to come before he dunked the ball, because he could have used more time. But he didn't. But that actually was smart, because it allowed them to have the ball one more time if they needed it. He makes the bucket, and then they win the game. So two key plays. The dagger 3 by Harden with, on the defensive switch, Horford on him. That's a tough matchup. And then they got a chance to win the game, and they throw the ball around, and unfortunately, one errant pass to a guy in the middle, and there's nobody there except Tyrese Maxey, and they end up winning the game. That was incredible. Then Denver, playing Phoenix, already up 1-love. Did you believe the defensive intensity in this game? It was 97-87. That was your final. Denver pulled away in the end. It was an unbelievable game for the first 43 minutes. I mean, you can absolutely tell regular season game, playoff game. You could just look at these two teams, how, in particular, the defensive intensity picks up. I mean, they are in each other's face. Referees are allowing a lot more physicality. To say that it doesn't change the way the game is refereed in the playoffs and the regular season is also not true. It is. They allow a lot more physicality. That's why the defensive intensity picks up, because some of that is allowed. You would not get, or I should say, you would get a lot more whistles in a regular season game on some of the way these teams defend. And it's playoff basketball. It is a different animal. It is a lot more enjoyable for me to watch because I like seeing effort. And there's no question these guys are putting out the effort. Now, the sad thing in this, as I mentioned, Chris Paul at 38 years of age, and they got a big three, right? They got Booker, they got KD, and they got Chris Paul. Well, they may not have Chris Paul because Chris Paul is 38 years old, and he pulled a groin muscle. No contact. He just went to jump. When he came down, he was in clear pain. I think it was on the takeoff. That's where you pull it, and you could see him sort of grimace in midair, comes down, and he heads right to the locker room. Now, I had issues myself as I got older, much older than this, where I had hamstring issues, groin issues, squatty, short legs. Not to say Chris Paul's body is exactly like mine, but he's not one of those svelte guys, right? So those thick muscles in legs like that, great for sprinting in that first quick step, but not really good at aging because they start to pull. And so I have grave doubts. Not that I'm a doctor. I'm not an orthopedic specialist. I am not Barry Phillips or Dr. Azar. But I can tell you from my own experience, 38, I got to question whether he's coming back for this series.
Yeah, the way he grabbed it, I don't think he's going to come back. And I think that's honestly the biggest factor in why the Nuggets pulled away at the end is you saw Devin Booker and Kevin Durant miss shots they would normally make. They just weren't being set up in the same way. God bless Cameron Payne. I thought he played fine, but it's just not the same as Chris Paul being on the court. That might not translate once. Might be the abruptness of his departure in the middle of the game that affected it more than it might going into the next game. But that's a huge loss for the Suns, and I think you saw it on display last night for sure.
Look, you don't lose a series till you lose a home game, okay? And they haven't lost a home game. And don't forget, Denver was the best team in the league this year. And they do have maybe the best player in the league this year in Jokic, who was outstanding again. And the thing that really was impressive to me was the defense that Denver was able to put out there. Look, Murray was a non-factor offensively in this game. He's their second best player. He looks like the guy that was in the bubble a couple of years ago. I mean, he's finally healthy. He's playing great. He could not hit last night. And they overcame that with great defense in Jokic. So if Paul is not able to play, which I suspect will be the case, I think they're in big trouble. I think Denver's going to be in the conference finals, and they may be even if Chris Paul plays because Jokic is that good, and they play as a team.
I agree. To me, I think they're in big trouble because Jokic in the regular season, he'll shoot like 9 shots. And he'll still get a triple-double. He'll be like 16, 16, and 12 assists or something like that.
Yeah.
Last night he took 30 shots. If Jokic is going to shoot the ball 30 times, every team is in trouble. Because what do you do if he starts being the guy that shoots the most? Double team him? Well, he's a guy that gets 15 assists a night. You can't double team that guy. Someone else is going to be wide open, and he's going to put it right on the money for a clean shot. Jokic taking 30 shots, if he continues to do this throughout the playoffs, their teams are going to be in big trouble facing the Nuggets. Even the Warriors.
I'm with you. All right, tough question for you here. tough. Who are you for tonight? The Lakers, this year's rival, and conqueror of the Grizzlies in the first round, or Golden State, last year's conqueror of the Grizzlies in the first round, and a team that Memphis grew to hate last year? Who are you for?
I want to see the Warriors. I think that they, when I saw them play the Celtics, I guess it was in January, something like that, I thought those were the two best teams in the NBA. So I'd really like to see that matchup in the finals. But obviously, we just saw the Nuggets last night. The Nuggets are playing at a different level. So I would like to see the Warriors go as far as possible in this playoffs, I think. What about you?
I'm the opposite way for a couple of reasons. One, last year, the way they acted here in Memphis, and even Steve Kerr, who I loved as an announcer, I loved as a Bull. I loved his story about his father, how he overcame the assassination and how that affected him. Loved all of that. But the stuff they were pulling last year, And on top of that, here's the other selfish aspect. They got 4 rings already. I don't want them getting close to the Chicago Bulls rings. There's the Celtics of Bill Russell. That's never going to get caught. That's 11. But then the Bulls at 6. I don't want them getting any closer. So I want them to get knocked off. And honestly, I like Austin Reeves. I think that's a great story. I think the best player on the floor when he plays is AD. And I don't know how they're going to stop him. I mean, I don't see Looney being able to stop him. Now, here's the thing. Here's what will counter. We saw that L.A. Will allow some perimeter defense, right? And the Grizzlies couldn't shoot. But I'm going to tell you, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Wiggins, Poole, they can all shoot. So I kind of think that Golden State's going to win this series because I think their perimeter shooting is so good. But I don't know how they match up with AD. So I think it'll be intriguing, and we'll see what LeBron is like. Because LeBron was, he made the winning play, honestly. Game 4 is the winning play. And then he put it away in OT with the N1 when he went right by Dylan Brooks, to his left, by the way. So we'll see how he holds up in another series, because I'm not 100% convinced he was 100% healthy when that series started. Can't believe he's getting better. So that'll be fun to watch. I'm for LA, but I kind of think Golden State's going to win. This is an interesting story, and I think we're going to see more and more of this because of the proliferation of gambling as accepted now and promoted now in sport. Yesterday's baseball game, collegiate baseball game, between Alabama and LSU, they stopped taking bets in the state of Ohio because they thought there was suspicious wagering that was going on. And one thing we've learned here, and I got a feeling this will have to change, but there is no national agency that monitors gambling in America. None. It goes state by state. So if indeed there was some fixing going on, I'm not saying there was because I don't know, but there was enough suspicious wagering on the Alabama-LSU game. One team was up 8-1 and they won like 8-7 or something like that.
LSU was up 8-1. I think Alabama came all the way back, like you just said.
So, but it was like, was LSU the favorite in that game, like minus big?
I think so. I think they're the number 1 team in the country.
Okay. If one state stops it, that's good. But everybody else could have gotten in on the fix. How do you not have a national agency that then would stop something that is suspicious? And, to me, I found this incredibly ironic. A couple of weeks ago, there were a couple of players, and I don't remember exactly who. Maybe, JMO, you will. And I meant to bring this up then. But the NFL fined, suspended, I can't remember exactly what the penalty was, for a couple of players for betting on a game or betting on games. And Because it states you can't bet on the game. It states it in the locker room, right? It states it in the locker room, but they're brought to you by some betting site that is begging you to bet. And even in the middle of the broadcast, like Fish at halftime of the Grizzlies games is basically saying, here's the new halftime line. Bet on it, baby. Come on.
Even more so, they're also putting kiosks to bet live on the action in stadiums.
In stadiums,
multiple sports throughout the country.
Right.
But
including the NFL.
Including the NFL.
Which is the league that's just fine the players.
But so it's like exactly like you said, there has to be some kind of line that you come to at some point, but it doesn't seem to be drawn yet.
Well, I mean, it's just crazy for me to think that players aren't going to bet. They're going to, they're going to have their family bet or their cousin or their best buddy. How are you going to ever really legislate that, especially if you don't even have a national entity that monitors this, that it's being done state by state? So in the case of the Alabama-LSU game, those in Ohio, that was stopped. Nobody was going to get paid off on that. But if you were next door in Kentucky, you could bet your butt off if you had the insight. Crazy. Or if you were in Louisiana or Alabama for that matter. Just to keep an eye on it, because I think a lot more of this is coming because we've accepted it. We promote it. The gambling casinos with apps on telephones are now partners of the major league entities. And so it's here. It's here to stay. Nothing's changing in that regard. And it's almost comical to me. You're going to find players because what a double standard that is. Now, I'm not saying players should absolutely do it. I guess if you were caught betting against your team, then that would be a certain issue. But I just don't know.
Well, reading that story, too, it basically was just saying that, like what you just said, it happened. They closed the gambling, they closed all bets on that game, just in Ohio, like you said. But there was no further details. I'm interested to know, what was the fix? Was it the over? It was 8-1.
I don't know.
They went right. The result of the game didn't change at that point.
Right.
So it had to be the over or something.
It's not like you get runs, right?
Right.
It's not.
So what was it? A reliever?
A run and a half.
A reliever came in just throwing fastballs. I don't understand what the fix would have been.
I don't know.
And then, like I said, there was no details on it. Very fascinating situation.
It is. But we know, because it happened in 1919, I may be making that up, but the Chicago Black Sox, as they called them, were caught or alleged, because a lot of people think that was a bunch of malarkey. But Shoeless Joe Jackson, who was banned from baseball, and a couple of other of the White Sox were alleged to have thrown a World Series. So if you're a key player, I guess you can. Maybe it was the pitcher that gave up 8 runs. I don't know. But just warning. A lot of stuff like this is going to happen because we have invited it into our sports society. And it's here. It's here to stay. As my dad used to say, the toothpaste is out of the tube. You cannot, or the horse is out of the barn. You can't put it back. That is unfortunately the case. Couple of news Tigers-wise. Tiger football got a player that transferred from Deion Sanders in Colorado yesterday. Half the time, I don't really know. Guy's name is Austin Smith, originally from Texas, 6'5", 225. He redshirted his freshman year, so he's got 3 years of eligibility. Played last year as a redshirt freshman, 7 games, so that takes that year out because you get 4. Caught 1 pass, it was a touchdown. That was it. Now, was Deion telling him to go, or did he want out? We don't know. Because I will tell you, at least half the time in these transfer portal deals, the coach is saying, I'm cutting you in a really nice way. Go into the portal. We'll never say how it worked. You need to transfer. Now, there's other cases, and I'll tell you, the guy that we hope that this guy Austin Smith replaces, Caden Prieskorn. He definitely left of his own volition and a whole bunch of cash that he got from Ole Miss, and he could probably leverage that up because he was getting an offer from Florida State. So good for Caden Prieskorn. He made significant money in the $300,000 range. So that was the other side of the story. There are guys that leave because they can get better deals somewhere else, more playing time. They don't like the coach. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons, but these things go halfway. What makes me think that Austin Smith made the decision on his own is that he was offered Wake Forest, Michigan State, Pitt, Syracuse, Coastal Carolina, Hawaii, and New Mexico. And he chose the Tigers because of Caden Prieskorn and Sean Dykes and guys like that. He loves the schemes that the Tigers run for their offensive tight ends. He loved what they did with Sean Dykes. They loved what they did with Prieskorn. He loves what Tim Cramsey is doing with the tight end position. So he's 6'2", or 6'5", 225. So he's more like Sean Dykes. He's not a huge guy, but I think he could be a factor right off the bat. And kind of bad news because the Tigers are still in the market, right, basketball-wise, for a big man. So I kind of thought he might be coming. His name is Russell Chua, and he's a big-bodied guy, played for USF. And last year, averaged 11 points, 8.5 rebounds. He did not play that well against Memphis. I always thought, like, just a half a step slow, but a good big body and plays hard. He ended up committing and, I guess, signing with Georgia yesterday or last night. So he's off the board. It is now, May 2nd?
Former Tiger Musa Cisse still on that board.
Yeah, no, he's still out there. Malcolm Dandridge still hasn't decided, so I have no idea. This is, I would think, because of the portal rules now, although the point was made nicely by Jason Munz yesterday. Munzie said the portal closes to enter, but all those people that are still in, they could still come out and will as the year goes on. But this, to me, seems like Penny taking it down to the wire more than he ever has because of the rules changes. So, I don't know. At this point, there is nobody that I see. I mentioned this yesterday, but I have faith in Penny. But there's nobody on this team that approximates DeAndre Williams or Kendrick Davis, unless it's Mikey Williams and J.J. Taylor, but they're freshmen. So, I don't know. And we don't know about Mikey Williams. Will he be able to play college basketball? We'll have to wait and see on all of that. One last note before we take a break. We got TJ Reeves coming your way next. Tim Doolin on baseball after that. I'm sad today because a guy that I watched twice, once when he was young and I was younger, and then later in life, after I think he'd had a stroke, he was not quite the same performer. But Gordon Lightfoot, the great Canadian balladeer, folk songs mainly, the Edmund Fitzgerald song, If You Could Read My Mind, Sundown. There are a lot of great songs that I loved as a kid. He passed away at the age of 84. I'm in the Family Leisure Studio where the vacation at home sale continues. Pool's got the lowest prices in town. You can go see them. You'll love what you look at when you walk in the store because it's so beautifully put together now with a huge showroom of patio furniture. You buy in stock and you get a big discount. Play gyms under $2,000. Mention this ad, you get half off on all the installation. Just say Wolo sent you and know that special financing available is there. It is during the vacation at home sale at Family Leisure. Our title sponsors, Homer Skelton Hyundai. That's in Olive Branch. Also, they sell Genesis cars there. Not all Hyundai dealerships can do that, but they do at Homer Skelton Hyundai. And right now, there's this deal. Go see the guy over the Genesis cars. It's Vinny Gerard, a guy who's from Canada. He's in seventh heaven during these NHL playoffs. And Vinny will tell you that if you want a special on a G70, that's the little sports car, their littler sedan that's a Genesis luxury car. If you would like that, he'll give you $1,000 if you will finance with Genesis. Why wouldn't you? They're giving you $1,000 rebate. In essence, they're paying you to do business with them at Homer Skelton Hyundai. We pause for a second. When we come back, to Tampa we go, and our friend TJ Reeves is standing by. He comes your way next.
Broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studio, we are Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Is your wife asking you to stop eating junk food? Well, we have you covered at Humdinger's. It's quick and it's healthy, and most important, it tastes amazing. With many choices from salmon salad to rainbow trout and grilled asparagus. Come visit us for lunch at Humdinger's, 6300 Poplar Avenue. So good, Coach Penny eats with us weekly. Don't forget, Humdinger's offers full-service catering for weddings, social events, or your corporate lunches. You can call 901-260-8292 to find out more.
Staples has everything to help small businesses do big things. Shipping supplies and services so you can fill big orders. The latest tech so you can create the next big thing. And now during Staples Small Business Deal Days, when rewards members spend $100 or more, they get $30 back in rewards to use on big things, little things, or anything they need. Plus, find new deals in-store every week on tech, office chairs, and shipping supplies. Because for small businesses, Staples knows savings are a big thing. Rewards offer ends 5/13. Limit 1. Redeemable in-store only.
For the ones finding new ways to ensure the job always gets done. For the ones wearing many hats. For the ones who are hands-on, even from far away. And the ones keeping business moving forward. We are Grainger, offering professional-grade industrial supplies, plus real-time product availability and access to experts ready to answer your toughest questions. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM, presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Oh, I know we're going to Tampa to talk to our friend TJ Reeves in just a minute, but I got to say this. I am so proud because I think of golf with TJ. I am so proud of what the city of Memphis is doing with their public golf. And guys like Mickey Barker, who will be on with us tomorrow to make golf picks, Austin Chin, who filled in for him. What they've got going on right now is just fantastic. And I can't wait, really and truly, from a year from now. There'll be 2 new golf courses that will open. At the end of this month, the new Pine Hill, and then in a year or so, you will see the new Audubon. And I go by there all the time when I'm going to the South Campus of Memphis because it's like a way for me to travel and go through that little road by the Brooks. It's incredible, the work that they're doing and the investment that is being made in Memphis golf. And I should remind you, everybody, May 20th, we got the Galloway Championship. That is 18-hole stroke play championship. Toughest and fairest setup they can do. That's for men, senior women's, 100-player max. That registration is open up now. There's going to be a new thing at Overton Park, parent-child tournament. That's June 17th. Even I could get a son in play because it's all ages. Got the 75th anniversary, and the competition will begin on July 10th through the 13th of the OPO, the Overton Park Junior Open. Memphis Amateur Championship is going to be July 21st through the 23rd. And now on a Friday and Sunday, the first round will be at the new Pine Hill. Can't wait for all of that. So much happening this summer thanks to the good people who put it all together at Memphis Public Links. TJ Reeves in Tampa joins us now. He's, I think, over the heartbreak of the Lightning going out. He's still got the Rays.
First of all, let's begin on a cheery note.
Yeah.
Because back in my college days, in the late 80s and the early 90s, which is longer ago than I want to own up to, I played golf frequently. Are you talking about Audubon Park?
Yes.
You're talking about Audubon?
Oh, wait.
I played golf at Audubon Park probably a dozen times while in college there, and at Galloway as well, like you were just mentioning, and at Overton Park. So bravo. bravo that 30 years later they're still taking care of those courses and sprucing them up and have a game plan. Because I'm sitting listening to your ad, reminiscing about doing that 30 years ago. I think you and I may have played a little golf one time at Audubon Park together.
We did.
So,
let me just say this: you will not recognize it. There's going to be lakes. They are making this over 7,000 yards because they're hoping to not just host University of Memphis tournaments. It'll be like Memphis's home course,
right?
But it's also going to host NCAA regional tournaments. So they're really doing this thing first class, doing it the right way. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but Overton Park was redone a couple of years ago by the people that did this famous course called Sweetens Cove, I think it is, in Chattanooga. They took that same concept and they did that with the it's either the oldest or the second oldest golf course in Memphis. Either Memphis Country Club or Overton Park was first. I can't remember which, but I mean, what they've done is terrific. I got a question for you.
We now resume to the regularly scheduled whatever you're about to do, which is either try to give me some comfort or ridicule me about the lightning going on. I'm not sure which way we're going here.
I'm not ridiculing you. First of all, you could be a lot worse. You could be Boston. How would you like to be Boston? Boston, not only did
we were Boston before Boston because we had the President's Cup, best record in the league, Lightning Hockey, 2019 season, won 62 games that year, and Boston broke the record this year. And we got swept out by the Columbus Blue Jackets that year, and there was some debate not only about the gravity of that upset, but whether the coach, John Cooper, was going to get fired after that happened. Boy, would that have been a mistake a few years later.
Right.
And now you have the Bruins. It was a 7-game series with the last 2 games going to overtime, not a sweep.
Well, they had a 3-1 lead in the series. So they had a 3-1 lead in the series. They have the best record. They had 65 wins and 135 points. They broke records and everything. I asked you point blank last week if they were built for the playoffs, unlike Florida, which went out last year as the President's Cup trophy winner. And you said, this team is. And then Boston, the Celtics lose home court advantage last night. I mean, that's a 48-hour period of doom in Boston. It's crazy.
I did say to you when this all began a couple of weeks ago, the second season is completely different, obviously, when you're playing the same team, especially over a 7-game series, a 5th time, a 6th time, or maybe even a 7th time. The familiarity, the matchups, the adjustments that you're making or not making. And Florida obviously was able to hang in, and Boston had a couple of injuries, and their goaltending let them down, and that's kind of coming back to the Lightning, what hurt them as well. Their defense and their goaltending just was not the same on this go-around. And right now, talk about lighting a candle in the window. No offense, J-Mo. I know you're like a closet Panthers guy, but you were wearing Rangers gear before.
Oh,
he's got a black
Rangers
armband
guy
on. I can't see him right now. Has he got a black armband on now for the Rangers? Now that they lost again,
he's not wearing their uniform finally because
so light a candle in the window for the NHL to not have a Boston-New York Rangers second round matchup. What are they going to get instead? Toronto and Florida, right? It's New Jersey and Florida instead in that part of the matchup. So, and they lose the Lightning, who have been in the Stanley Cup final the last 3 years, and Colorado, the defending champions, all in the first round. None of them alive now for the first. Couple of 3 weeks.
Serious question.
May.
Serious question for you. The President's Cup trophy, that's the winner of the regular season. The best record of the regular season gets that trophy. The last time a President's Cup trophy winner won the Stanley Cup, I believe, was 2013. So that's 10 years ago. Since the 80s, only 8 times has the regular season winner won the Cup. 8 times. What happens? How did Boston blow that series?
It's a completely different season. It's a second season where your ability to beat the team in front of you 4 times is more important than how did you do over the long haul of playing a bunch of different teams and handling your travel and doing well on a road trip. And remember that Boston team got off to such a monstrous start where they literally won, like at the beginning of the year, like 13 or 14 games in a row. But again, what does that matter when you come to April and May? And it's kind of the same thing now. We were talking on your show about the Lakers and the Grizzlies, and I'm bringing up the sore subject there. The Lakers right now are a different team in this second season, and a very dangerous team than the team that we saw in November, December, and January that didn't even look like they were going to make the playoffs. Because once you get there, it's all about how do you match up, who excels in a series against the same team, obviously. And
Right.
the Lakers so far look good.
Well, I see the difference in the playoffs in the NBA up close. And I mentioned this earlier. I think one of the reasons for the differences is that teams play defense so much more intensely, and I think it's officiated to allow more physicality. I mean, that's why you had a game last night, 97-87. That's two great offensive teams in Denver and Phoenix, because I'm watching this intensity for the first 43 minutes of that game that was unbelievable defensively, and so much physicality that I think there would have been a lot more whistles in the regular season.
Yeah, it's a great point.
Does
It is
that
officiated.
happen?
There's no doubt.
Does that happen in the NHL?
It is officiated differently in that they allow the physicality and they swallow the whistles a lot of time in the late third period and in the overtime. But yes, the physicality ramps up in the NHL the same way as the NBA, and it is officiated differently. And if they try to act like that it's not, they're lying. The proof is watch the games, like you said. Watch what's allowed to go on that's not called a foul in playoff games. Watch the different plays and moments at the end of a third period or an overtime that would absolutely be a penalty in the regular season, but they don't. The unwritten rule is, especially at the end of regulation in a tie game, much less sudden death overtime, they don't want to give a team a power play unless we're talking about dismemberment, like a body part. They're not going to call it. So it is officiated differently. You're absolutely correct.
All right, let's talk a little NFL draft while I've got you. Of course, folks don't know, TJ Reeves is the sideline reporter and has been for many, many years, and does radio and TV shows for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Eagles, by everybody's account, won the draft going away. A guy named Nate Davis from USA Today gave them an A-plus grade. Everybody's giving them A's. Seattle second, Pittsburgh and Houston also had pretty good drafts, according to most of the experts. Your Tampa Bay Buccaneers got a C- from this guy, 24. Where do you think Tampa was? Who did you admire in this 2023 NFL draft?
Well, first, on the whole draft grade thing, if you go back and you watch and you track this, most of these clowns don't have any idea. And you don't know.
Right.
You don't know because you have to know 2 years in advance of what happens in 2024 or 2025, what this class turns out to be. I mean, right now on paper, Jalen Carter looks like a fantastic pick. But what happens if he's out of shape, overweight, doesn't produce, and he's a bust?
For me, the guy who's the fifth-round pick, like, I want to know if Nate Davis or any of those other guys, maybe Mel Kiper really does, but how many guys really know how good the fifth-round pick is or the seventh-round pick? They don't know. They're guessing. Right. I agree with that.
Because once you get to Saturday and the blur of all of the names that have gone by and who is still there, the teams know much more so because they have been doing this year-round with their scouts and with the video and going over this relentlessly from January until late April. So they have a pretty good idea of what this guy can or can't do, and that's why you see guys fall. And okay, but back to the point about the Buccaneers. So the Buccaneers have reloaded with a defensive player from Pittsburgh that a lot of people are comparing to Aaron Donald. I'm not saying he is going to be Aaron Donald, but his name is Kalijah Kancey, and Kancey is a physical interior defensive lineman, can also play a little bit outside and rush. They got some help there. They also got a second-round pick offensive lineman out of North Dakota State named Cody Mauk, who is a big 6'5" offensive lineman with long red hair and no front teeth. Looks like a hockey enforcer. He got his front teeth knocked out.
He's a Hanson brother.
Yes, like a Hanson brother. He got his front teeth knocked out in junior high school in a basketball game and just decided to never replace them. And so it's part of the image now. And the Buccaneers have hit previously on a couple of small school offensive linemen before that makes you look at this and say they know what they're doing when they go grab a guy from North Dakota State. So we'll see what happens. But, yeah, all these different drafts. I mean, I thought it was interesting Detroit trading up to get Jahmyr Gibbs and how elated they were for the Alabama running back. when a lot of people believed that Jahmyr Gibbs was still going to be there later in the mid-first round, if not the late first round.
Right.
But they obviously were hot on him. They've seen other Alabama running backs succeed in the NFL. So that one was interesting. And speaking of running backs, the Falcons, who are in the South here with the Buccaneers, get Bijan Robinson, the running back from Texas.
Were you surprised he went that high?
That was interesting. That was interesting, too. And it's a lot more money to go up in the top 10, but Atlanta needs somebody in their running game. So now we have that, and we've got Bryce. Speaking of Alabama, you've got Bryce Young as the quarterback in Carolina, both those guys in the division with the Buccaneers. So it will not be dull. It will not be dull when all of this comes back around, and it's still amazing. You know this, and you've been talking about this. There were over 14 million people combined watching last Thursday night on the NFL Network, ESPN, ABC, and streaming. Over 14 million. Not to watch a game, to watch a draft selection process. It's incredible
the NFL
what this has become.
Is a PR machine. And just to add to that, because it was just released yesterday or last night, whatever it was, Super Bowl 57, last year's Super Bowl, has now become, because they underestimated by 2 million, has now become the most watched telecast of all time in North America. I want you to, J-Mo, really quick, look up the numbers, the rating, or the amount of people that watched the MASH finale, because this is before streaming. It's before we had
I can tell you that it's something like, I remember in the stories, it's something like 70 million people watched the CBS finale of the MASH television series.
Because
that's all. That's the highest rated non-sporting event ever in all of TV before or since. That is the standard, and it's by far. It's by tens of millions. That includes the goodbye of the Cosby Show that was immensely popular.
All in the Family.
Goodbye of Cheers. All in the Family. Anything else that said goodbye.
Right.
Dallas was the nighttime drama. I believe it was even a Friday night show on CBS. None of them came close to that. And J-Mo, you may have found it, but it was something like 70 million on CBS.
He's got it.
That goodbye.
106 million.
106 million. I undersold it.
Okay.
So that's still that's staggering.
Well,
it's crazy.
But here's what Super Bowl 57 drew. 115.1 million across all the platforms. So they had underestimated it by 2 million and change. Now we know 115.1. Everybody loves the National Football League.
No doubt.
Thank you, my friend. We'll do this again next Tuesday. We appreciate you.
Always good to be with you boys. Behave. When are you going to have me up to Memphis to go hit the ball? We got to go play at Audubon when it's ready to go. I'm ready.
Well, you got to wait. You got to wait about a year for that. But at the end of May, the new Pine Hill's going to open. I'll take you to that.
Let's do it.
All right.
Let's do it.
Bring the girls. Behave. Bye. That's TJ Reeves, who we chat with every Tuesday. He's brought to you in part by the Home Team Credit Union. That's Southern Security. You know by now how big a fan I am of Dawn Grader and this business that she has grown. Oh, it's a great story. And if you don't know what the credit union thing is all about, it's actually better than a bank. Through your employer, you and your family get membership benefits that are amazing. Free checking, loan products with low rates for home, auto, and personal. A personal loan you can get through your credit union at a better fee than traditional banks. Lower fees across the board than traditional banks. There's a rewards discount program. There's free financial credit counseling if you, through your employer, become a part of Southern Security Credit Union. Mobile deposits, video banking, external transfers, and even a person to talk to if you need to. How about that? You can talk to a human if you call 901-452-7900 extension 5. It's the perfect way to do it. They've been doing it for 70 years. It's Southern Security, your home credit union. And beat the rush. Schedule that $69 air conditioning special tune-up with Conway, 16-point energy saver. Super tune-up with Conway is so simple. You avoid costly breakdowns during the hottest month. You keep efficient so you save money on your MLGW bill, and your system's going to last longer. Call 384-3511. That's the number for Conway, or you can visit conwayservices.com for details, terms, and conditions. Baseball's up next with the guru. Tim Doolin is right around the corner.
Be sure to follow us at Sports56 WHBQ on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to watch live video of our shows, stay up to date with station events, and have chances to win prizes. Don't miss out on anything that's going on. Follow us at Sports56 WHBQ.
There are so many ways to buy and sell houses these days. How do you choose? Well, of course, choose the right way with Chet Whitsitt. Chet has over 37 years of experience as both a broker and a sales agent. He's helped lots of people buy and sell homes, and he will help you. It's the right way, and it's that easy. Buying, selling, or referrals, check with Chet at 901-484-5689 and Cry Like Realtors at 901-756-8900. Buying or selling? Check with Chet Whitsitt.
Heart failure, carpal tunnel syndrome, shortness of breath, stomach issues, lower back pain. How does it all add up? If you have heart failure and any of those seemingly unrelated symptoms sound familiar, it's time to talk with your cardiologist and get the full picture. They may add up to transthyretin amyloid cardiomyopathy. ATTR-CM is a rare and underdiagnosed disease. Recognize the signs and discuss them with your doctor soon. Learn more at connectwithyourheart.com. That's connectwithyourheart.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
When I say hot wings, the first flavor that pops into your head is buffalo, right? Well, let the Crazy Coop open your mind and awaken your taste buds to a huge variety of crazy chicken wing flavors, like Buffalo Ranch, a perfect combo of ranch with just a little kick, Mango Habanero, the sweet taste of mango that's followed by the heat, or Sweet Maple Bourbon, the taste is going to remind you of chicken and waffles. Now, that's just 3 of the 27 chicken wing seasons that you can get at the Crazy Coop. Now, you can try those 3 seasonings in a lunch special on 3 whole wings or 6 party wings with a regular fry and drink for just $9.99 at the Crazy Coop, 7199 Stage Road in Bartlett. And now open the Crazy Coop Express at 1315 Ridgeway off Poplar. Now, some do like it hot, and if you're one, then try the Crazy Sweet Lemon Pepper Hot or the Crazy Suicide. But if you've got a more subdued palate, then try the 4 cheese, roasted garlic, or barbecue bacon. You want the sauces and seasonings without the chicken? Okay. Family owned and operated, the Crazy Coop. You'd be crazy not to visit the Coop.
Now, back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM, presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Over the weekend, Shohei Ohtani, not pitching, hitting, had a fastball that he absolutely swung up on. A 39-degree launch angle that hung in the air, deep center field for 7 seconds. How they know this, I don't know. They used GPS. I don't know what the distance was, but if it hung for 7 seconds in the air, it was long, it was deep, it was gone. And I want to find out the significance and the way they're teaching. There's nobody better because you know Tim Doolin, you know the Doolin Dodgers. You know we've had him on for 25 years as our baseball expert. But Tim teaches hitting. That's really how he started post his career, was to teach hitting. So how the heck, Tim Doolin, do you get to a 39-degree launch angle? Good morning.
Good morning. First of all, you're talking about one of the most elite baseball players in the history of the game. I mean, you're talking about a guy that not only does the things you're talking about from an offensive and a hitting perspective, but he's one of the best pitchers as well. So the tough part about, hitting today and what's being taught and all the things that we see on Instagram and all the social media posts is there's lots of guys out there that are taking this analytics and as you talk about launch angle, and they're taking it and trying to teach and educate young hitters that that quite honestly are not physically strong enough or elite enough athletes to be able to apply the concepts of what you're talking about. And one of the unique things is the launch angle is really not a technique. It's more a measurement. And so the basic fundamentals have never changed. And you can go back and look at video of, guys like Hank Aaron and Ted Williams. And you do things subconsciously as an athlete, whether it's hitting a golf ball, whether it's hitting a baseball, that it's not really a thought process. It just happens. So it's just a very convoluted concept. And so when you talk about Shohei Ohtani, he's not trying to lift the ball. He's trying to get on plane as soon as he can. So he's in the strike zone, and he stays in it as long as he can in case his timing's not perfect. When you catch it right, it creates backspin, and consequently, it's like a golf ball. You see a golf ball, you swing down at a golf ball. You don't swing up at it.
Right.
But if you swing down the proper way, what happens? It goes up and goes a long way. If you try to lift it, it doesn't go as far. And so these measurements are good for conversation, but in the same sense, guys like Stanton for the Yankees and several guys that have led the American and the National League in home runs, their launch angle is not super high. You're not trying to hit moonshots, although Shohei's ball that you're talking about was definitely a moonshot. But again, you've got to have the core values of having balance, making sure that you're quiet so you can you see the ball a lot better. And then you work on those things and you evolve as hitter. Mookie Betts, who I had since he was 14, he didn't hit home runs in high school. He didn't hit home runs in the minor leagues. He's evolved as a hitter, and he's totally focused on the process of making sure that he can repeat his swing and stay consistent. And then you add. It's like a golfer. You're not going to teach a young golfer to fade it or to draw it immediately. You try to get him to be able to hit it straight first.
Right.
Then he's got a feel for how to shape the ball. No different than hitting.
Well, here's where my confusion comes in, because I've heard, like when I was playing baseball as a kid, we were coached where balance was critical. Keep your head behind the ball. Make sure you swing through. And those were, some of the fundamentals. And now we're hearing, with these launch angles, I always thought they were teaching to swing up at the ball. You're saying that's not true.
Well, I mean, they are with where we are today. That some people are doing that. The problem is, if you've got a young hitter, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, they're not physically strong enough to be able to grasp the concept of creating angles and so forth. So let's just say you've got a 5'6" high school second baseman, and he weighs 135 pounds. Well, if we're going to teach him launch angle, all he's going to be doing is hitting a pretty fly ball about 260 feet. Well, then he takes a U-turn and goes back and sits in the dugout, and his grandmother's impressed because she sees it going in the air. But at the end of the day, every hitter's different. You can't. I mean, it's the same thing with Aaron Judge. He's 6'7", Wolo. How many guys are that freakish of an athlete? They're not. So you can't teach everyone how to hit like Aaron Judge. You can't teach everyone how to hit like Ichiro. Ichiro was a unique kind of a gliding, sliding forward, linear type of hitter. You can't teach everyone the same. So you basically embrace the basic concepts of good hitting, and you let the player kind of evolve into who he is and become really good at what he's best at, and that's the definition of staying in the process and being consistent.
I'll say who's not really good this year is the St. Louis Cardinals. I think a lot of us are surprised. Most people thought the Brewers were the best team in that division, and they're a game and a half behind the surprise Pittsburgh Pirates, who are 20-9. The Cubs are a couple of games over 500. They're 4.5 back, but the Cardinals are now 10-19. 9 games under 500, 10 games behind the leader, the Pirates, in the National League Central. What is going on upriver in St. Louis?
Well, we talked about it about 2 or 3 weeks ago when they had the incident of Marmol kind of showing up, his young outfielder, in the media, and you just don't do that. And if you're not Tony La Russa, which this guy's not, he's basically a young, probably a smart baseball guy. But again, he's part of. I think he's part of the culture of where we are today, when the front office is basically using the manager as a puppet. And I don't use that word lightly, but it's happened, and when you have players and when you have veteran players like the Cardinals do, that becomes very frustrating. And there's a sense of distrust amongst the players and the manager when they know the manager is being told what to do, and they know the manager's running upstairs and talking to the front office and giving them every report. What goes on in the clubhouse stays in the clubhouse. It's a saying that's been around for 100 years, and that's no different amongst players, but it's also the same as with players and managers. I'm not saying he's lost the clubhouse, but obviously they've got a very talented team and they're not performing.
Also, the sad news that came out on April the 29th, just a couple of days ago, longtime announcer, longtime player, Mike Shannon, passing away at the age of 83. Is this the first year or was last year the first year he didn't do the Cardinal games? I can't remember.
I think last year was, but I can tell you I remember as a kid being in the car with my dad and listening and hearing Mike Shannon's deep, raspy voice and how he articulated the play-by-play and also with color. He was definitely a legend, and he will be missed.
No doubt. He worked to 82 basically in the booth, and how many years is that all told? I mean, my goodness, he was at least a Cardinal in some form for 40 to 50 years. What a career! He worked with both Bucks, worked with our friend Bob Carpenter, worked with John Rooney, who's been the guy now for a couple of years. Sad to see that era come to an end. I mean, that's an era that goes back to Stan Musial.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, and as long as I've been alive, everyone's known what Mike Shannon did, not only as a player but as the announcer as well.
All right. I want to next week get with you on who are the local high school or your competitive leagues, really good prospects. Is there another Blaze Jordan? By the way, how is Blaze Jordan doing?
He's doing really well. He's back. He's really kind of moved through their system relatively fast. He's one of their youngest players in their system, and he is in high A right now. And I would suspect if he continues just to prove that he's making progress and doesn't go backwards, I would be shocked if he's not in Double A after the All-Star break. And so he's well on his way. Obviously, most major league teams are not going to rush their top prospects, because the one thing you would hate is to send a guy to Double A and then him struggle and then he has to go back to A ball, because that's very challenging for the mental psyche of a young player. So they're not in a rush.
All right, we'll get into the next Blaze Jordan next week. Thank you, Tim. Enjoy your weekend. All right,
well,
so early. Just enjoy the week.
But I will.
Lost my mind here. Thank you. We appreciate it. That's our guy on baseball. That is Tim Doolin, brought to you in part by the Eflin Insurance Team. There's another Tiger. Tim was a great Tiger. Matt Eflin's a great protector who loves the Tigers. In fact, he's a big donor, and his company is so involved that they have a number that has the Tiger in it, 386-GER, 901-386-4777. That spells out GER for the Tigers. And the way they protect you is simple. They get to know you. They collaborate with you. They'll know your children. They'll know your cars. They'll know what your home is all about. They'll protect you within your budget on life, auto, and home. And then if you've got a small to mid-sized business, that's the Eflin Insurance Team specialty. They will get to know your product. They'll know your employees. They'll forecast you out a few years. They'll figure out your budget, and then they'll protect you the right way. They've been doing this for a long time. Several companies that they will get involved in, which matches your budget. Get protected the right way with the Eflin Insurance Team. No Johnny Radio today, but the dynamic duo, J-Mo and Brian Dacus. They come your way in a minute. Have a great day, everybody.
I know the sweetest thing in Memphis.